Good evening, afternoon, good day, wherever you are in the world. Or maybe you're watching this from space. Maybe you're the aliens and you're watching this from outer space and you're checking out how you're going to tune up your space bike. I don't fucking know. Right, so basically, today I thought I'd make I'm going to stop. I'm going to really try and stop saying I'm going to make a quick little video because I'm fucking terrible at making quick little videos. I want to make a semi-comprehensive overview of some things that is probably worth doing as you take a bike out of storage for the start of the spring. If you've got a bike that's been in storage for a while and you know it needs a little bit of tune up, I'm going to give you some tips while I fit this chain, along with some chain fitting tips. Yeah, crack into it. So I have just replaced the cassette on this. I replaced the rear wheel as well because it was exploded. It was dead. It was completely dead. So you got a new rear wheel, got a new cassette, tires. You know, everything's in pretty good nick. Just need a little bit of work. And that's the thing with bikes like this is like they will run. Bikes will run for like thousands, tens of thousands of miles. Like if you maintain them, if you take care of them, if you know a little bit, then that knowledge will carry you thousands and thousands of miles. And that's, I guess, basically the ethos of this whole channel. Yeah, right. So let's crack on. I haven't, however, cleaned the jockey wheels. And if you have not cleaned jockey wheels before, this is kind of honestly a dirty little secret. But I love cleaning jockey wheels because you get what some mechanics call derailleur biscuits, which is basically, I wonder if I can get you a better angle on this. If you look at the jockey wheel, you can see there's quite a bit like right there. There's a good bit of crud on that, right? That's what we call derailleur biscuits. Derailleur biscuits, obviously you don't want that in your sandwich. You also don't want it in your drivetrain. So a tip is if you take a little flathead screwdriver, comme ça, you can just lean it against the jockey wheel and then spin it. And then like use your finger to like spin the jockey wheel around. And already, look at that. Look at that beautiful derailleur biscuit. McVitie's derailleur biscuits. I don't know what I'm talking about. That'd be kind of hilarious if they made derailleur biscuits. Maybe somebody will one day. Alright, so basically, yeah, I'm just going to get my screwdriver on there. Going to go over both sides, and I'm just going to spin it around. Oh my god, I wish I had a better angle on this, because that is actually, like, dreamily, beautifully, honestly, visually stunning. Wow. Alright, you're going to see this in a sec. No! Look at that. So all of that crud was on the jockey wheel. And what that'll do is if you put a new chain, slap on that derailleur biscuit, well, it's kind of really negates the point of replacing these parts if you're not going to clean it. And you're just going to leave it covered in crud. So always worthwhile to just take a little flathead, or a Stanley blade can work too, and just clean the crud off of your jockey wheels. Doesn't need to be terribly intensive, but just do it. Oocha! Doesn't need to be crazy. Nothing wild. Nothing psycho, man. Just a little bit of a clean. That'll do ya. Yeah. So that's pretty clean. I'm fairly happy with that. Grab a little wipe, little rag, and just give it a little bit of a wipe down. And I can see I've now gotten most of the road chocolate biscuits. Oh, that's kind of funny. That's kind of good, actually. Yeah, got most of the derailleur biscuits off that. So now we are going to fit our chain. Obviously, to note, so this is a real basic thing that some people, and I say this because some people come into my work, and they don't know what chain they need. They think that all bicycle chains are the same. They're not. There's many different varieties. Some wear quicker than others. Some are specific for certain drivetrain systems, like Campagnolo. If you're watching this video, you probably don't have Campag on your bike. I'm going to go out there and I guess you might not even know what the fuck it is. And honestly, you can go your entire cycling life and never worry about it. If you do, then you do. Crack on. But for most of us, we don't need to worry about fancy Italian things like that. For most of us, if we have a 9-speed thing, then we have a 9-speed thing. So there's 9 gears on the back here. If you're a slightly older person, you might refer to this bike as a 18-speed, because it was kind of used to be like a selling point on bikes where, like, you know, if you see like an old mountain bike from the 90s, then it'll say like there'll be like a sticker like proudly placed. Like I remember these white ones, it was like this old pink Kona I seen, and it was like proudly displays on the top tube 21 speed Shimano SIS, because, you know, people wanted all the gears in the world. And now manufacturers don't write the number of speeds on bikes because it's not seen as a cool selling point thing anymore. But the way you know what chain you need is the number of gears on the back here. It's irrelevant really what's on the front here. Not entirely irrelevant. You have some e-bikes with a big massive chain ring on the front, or some commuters that run like a 1x with a big chain ring. Sometimes you might need like an e-bike chain. So the e-bike chains are just typically longer, and they are typically designed a little bit stronger. You will pay a little bit more money for them, but the main thing is they're typically longer. You get a few more links. So it'll stretch further. Right. So the way I fit a chain now, this is how I do it. There's a few ways to do this. When I first started learning how to fix bikes, someone showed me that you put it around the big ring, and you put it around the big ring, and then you add 2 on, and that. Oh God, what have I just dropped? Nope, I haven't dropped anything. Good. And that works. That does work. However, I just find it a bit of a pain in the arse. So I have an alternative. So I didn't make this up, but this works. This works very well. So what I do is I put it in the biggest ring at the front. I pop my chain through. Now some chains are directional, as in they have to go on, like they have an upside down and a right way up kind of way. This doesn't. This is just a regular, good old-fashioned KMC chain. It'll get you to where you're going kind of thing. Right, so that goes around there. That's often more of a fidget than I made it look, by the way. So that goes on like that. Now, that then goes over the back of there. You get to this stage. Now this is where some people get stuck, because they look at the derailleur and they go, well, I'm not quite sure how that goes in there. Little side point. Oftentimes, you know, if you're replacing the chain, it might be the case that it's snapped. If it has snapped, it might be the case it's very worn and you need to replace the cassette as well. And if you put a new chain on an old cassette, it'll skip and it won't work. It's kind of out with the remit of what I want to talk about today. But what I do want to mention is that if you have the old chain, don't just you can line it up beside the old one, but make sure you line up the links so they're the same, because chains stretch over time. And if you line them up lengthways, you might be out by a link or two. It might be too long, too short. It won't be the right size. But what I don't like measuring off of old chains, because that makes the assumption that the last guy that did it knew what he was on about, or gal, or like person, or whatever. And I never assume that they have done it correctly, because I've had too many times of taking a chain off a bike and being like, well, that's just categorically the wrong size. So I just go from scratch. And how that looks is like this. So the chain's coming down here, right? We have the jockey wheel there. That's going to go over there. Crucially, I have it in the smallest ring on the back. I have it in the smallest ring on the back, right there. Pardon me. The derailleur, you will notice here, has a metal tab, right? In this case, the chain is going to go over the top of that. Sometimes a mistake people make is they will put the chain around the wrong side of this tab, and then it will make funny noises, and they'll be like, I don't quite know why it's making funny noises, and they'll bring it to Bike Shop and be like, oh, you've put the new chain on and you've popped it on slightly incorrectly. You know, we're all learning. I'm still learning things every day as well. And there we go. So I'll pop it around the jockey wheel. I'm then making sure I'm going over the top of that tab I just showed you. And then I'm going around that jockey wheel. And now, if I pull it through and I show you, just a moment, you can see that when I pull the chain, it's sitting just over the top of that tab. If it was down the other side, if it was here, then it would be rubbing, and we don't want that on a drivetrain. Right, there we are. Now, I pull this through, and I pull that. Well, that's all the chain we've got. I'm just going to have to fit that as is. What you would typically see, and you get this more on drivetrains that have smaller ranges, is that when you pull this, that will sit a little bit more. It'll sit more like here, right? If it's all the way out here and you've not even made any shifts yet, it's way too short. Ideally, I'd like that to be about there, because it means that when the derailleur is all the way up here, if the person is cross-training and they have the chain on the biggest ring, then the chain's not going to snap, like it'll be long enough. But that's all the chain I physically have, so I'm just going to have to fit it with what is there. And then crucially, extremely crucially, before you go and ride this bike down the road, or give it to the person you have fixed it for, is that you are going to check on the stand that it shifts. If you don't do that, then it can be the case that that chain might be too short and it might snap, and you don't want that. Another little tip for when you're actually physically putting the chain together is to take it off the chain rings at the front. What this means is that it will dangle down there, right? So it's off of that. It means there's no tension on the chain. It means it's much easier to fit. So now I've got that there. I can pop that quick link on there. I'll show you real quick what I'm doing with the quick link since we're here. All I've done is on one side of the chain, I have the quick link in that side, and on the other side, I have the link in that way. And these are just going to go together like a little Lego key kind of thing. And I'll give you a little tip in just for how to double check that that's definitely in properly. So pop that together. It's very difficult to show that with two hands, with one camera and no cameraman-y, but kind of just one of those things. You have to jiggery pokery around a little bit to get it to sit in right. Come on. What the fuck is going on with that? Why is that not wanting to? Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. There we go. Right. Now you notice I've connected the chain and it's a little bit loose. If I had tried to connect it while it was on the chain rings, it would be a lot tighter and just harder. God, that's kind of ASMR. Right, so now we'll run through the gears to make sure it runs all right. Now that thing I said just a moment ago about making sure that if you backpedal and there's not too much funky noises going on, which there's not right now, then that's probably fine. But what I will always do when I'm fitting a quick link on a chain is I will find the quick link. I will find the quick link. I will find the bloody quick link. There we go. Right there. Now, as you can see, if you look at this side of the link, you can see that that little pin is pushed far on the back side. If the pin was still kind of sitting in the middle, I'll show you what you can do. You can put the pedal like this, grab the tire, and what you're doing is you're pushing down on the pedal. If you've got the bike on the ground, which you probably will, because you might not have a bike stand, push down on the pedal while pulling the back brake, and what it will do is it will put tension on the chain and it will pull the quick link into position. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you'll often hear, with SRAM ones, you'll hear a distinctive clicking noise as it clicks into place. You don't always hear that with the Shimano ones or the KMC ones, but the SRAM ones tend to make a distinctive, satisfying pop as they go into place. So now that we know that that's on, I'm going to shift up onto the big ring on the front, and I'm going to shift all the way up to the biggest ring on the back. Now that there is absolutely fine, because this is such a cage derailleur. Even though the chain was sitting, I'd maybe like it to be a little bit longer, but that's healthy looking. And if we back pedal, it still sounds fine, still runs fine. And then I'll just check that when we run color of the two rings, that runs fine as well. And it does. Actually shifts really quite well for a bike that's been sat in a garage for donkeys. Wow, I'm actually really quite impressed with that. That is pretty mint, to be honest. Okay, so now that we've fitted the chain, I'm just going to go over a few little things that you should do for your tune-up in the spring. So let's say that this bike is, it has been sat in storage for a while because the chain and the cassette were really rusty, and I had to replace those for the dude. Let me just square you folks up a little bit. That looks a little bit better. Firstly, I'd give your bike a clean. Get some rags. They don't even need to be that clean. Get some decent degreaser. I do really like the Muck Off stuff. I don't like all of their stuff, but I do like their degreaser. You can get it in bottles that are like big multi. Like you can like make lots with one bottle. I'm not sponsored by them or some bloody affiliate. I just like the stuff. I think it's good shit. Give it a clean, because when you give it a clean, you will have to move things around. You'll be spinning the wheels. You'll notice if a tire's flat. You'll notice if it's maybe a little bit buckled. It's got a little bit of a bend on it. You'll hear squeaks and stuff. You just kind of like, you're gathering a little bit of information to see like if the bike is in decent nick. What I would then do, put some air in the tires, because inner tubes are not like 100% airtight. They will lose some pressure over time. Pump up your tires. It will say on the sidewall here, it says 50 to 85 psi. Most people, unless you're on the heavier end of the scale, really, you don't need the tires like all the way up at the end of that. This bike also has suspension, and these are like 38C tires, so they're quite wide. So they've got a good bit of spring in them, and you know, if you pump your tires really, really hard, then you're kind of negating all the money you spent on a decent pair of tires, assuming you bought a decent pair of tires. Pump your tires up, give it a little clean. I would probably add a little bit of chain lube. I'm not going to add chain lube because this is a brand new chain and it comes with a little bit of lube on it anyway, and that will do this bike fine for a good couple of months. Don't imagine it's going to get heavy usage. And then after you put a little bit of lube on it, take it for a little test ride around the block. Jesus, I just said round the block. I've been watching far too much American YouTube. Go down the street, lads. Take a left. Take a right. Pedal it up a road, a street, wherever you are. Go and pedal the bike. That might make some noises where you're like, huh. Investigate the noises. Is it a bit of brake rub? Is it the tire rubbing on the frame? Just have a look. You don't have to be a bike mechanic to fix a bike, right? There's a lot of stuff you can figure out you can kind of figure out intuitively. If something's making a noise, then look at it, have a little bit of a check, and just see what's going on. And if you get stuck, then there's probably a video on the internet about it, or you can drop a comment in the section in comments below, and I will pick up your comment, find it, and try and dispel some information that might help. Click through the gears, see if they move, and then ride your bike, and that's it. That really is it. If you put some air in the tires, check the brakes and the gears like work. I would squeeze the brakes, give them a little squeeze before you even go out anywhere, and make sure they're like connected, as they still work, and squeeze them hard. Squeeze them hard. Pump your tires up. Make sure your wheels, your quick releases are on good. You got bolt-ons, make sure those are on good. Your through axles, make sure your wheels are attached well to your bike. Because sometimes people have brought a bike in from going for a ride. They've had it in the car. They've then just thrown it in the shed, and they've not really tightened up things properly because they're like, "Oh, I'll do it later," and then they forget about it, and then they don't, and then they break their arm or whatever. So just check that's tight. Check your tires are pumped. Check your wheels are well attached to your bike. Give your brakes a little squeeze. Give the chain a little bit of a clean. Give the bike a little bit of a clean. Pick out some good tunes, or don't, and then go for a ride. Enjoy your bike and love life. That's it. See you soon.